Have you ever stood in a room full of people you love, or in the middle of a life you worked so hard to build, and suddenly felt like you were drowning in a room full of air? We often mistake stress for overwhelm, but for the ADHD brain, overwhelm isn't just having too much to do. It is a visceral, neurological traffic jam where the world moves at 100 miles per hour while you feel completely frozen in place. Think about that moment. I call it the 2-second mirror, where you walk into your kitchen and you see a single unwashed spoon, a stack of unopened mail, and your phone vibrating with a notification, and suddenly your brain simply glitches. It's like having 50 browser tabs open at once, all playing different videos, and you can't find the mute button. In modern psychology, we recognize this as the collapse of executive function, but in the realm of the spirit, it feels like a profound disconnection between your soul's intentions. You want to move, you want to be productive, and you deeply want to be present for your partner. But the internal noise has become so deafening that it drowns out your capacity to function. Why does the hum of the refrigerator suddenly feel like a jet engine? Why does a simple, kind question from someone you love feel like an intrusive demand on your peace? It is because your neurological filter has reached its limit, and every piece of data is hitting your nervous system with the same level of emergency. We spend so much energy trying to mask this invisible storm because we are terrified of being labeled as lazy or too much. Yet the more we resist this chaos, the more power it gains over our lives. Before we can ever hope to fix the pace of our world, we must first learn to witness the rhythm of our minds without judgment. You are not a broken machine failing to keep up. You are a high-frequency instrument that is currently out of tune with its environment. Silence is not the absence of noise, but the mastery of it. But why does this happen? Why does the mind feel like a Ferrari engine with a bicycle's fuel tank? We've been conditioned to believe that doing is a matter of character, that if we just cared enough or worked hard enough, the paralysis would vanish. But modern science tells a different story, one of a dopamine deficit. See, dopamine isn't just about the high of a reward. It is the neurological fuel of prioritization. It is the spark that tells your brain, this task matters more than that distraction. When your brain is running on an empty tank, trying to force productivity is like flooring the accelerator in a car that's out of petrol. You hear the engine roar. That's your anxiety, your guilt, your inner critic screaming at you to move. But the wheels never turn. This is the fuel crisis of the ADHD mind. We enter a low battery state where the brain begins to shut down non-essential functions to conserve energy. And unfortunately, the first things to go are often the very tasks that sustain our relationships and our careers. We then fall into the shame cycle, punishing ourselves for a biological shortage we didn't ask for and cannot see. We mistake a lack of fuel for a lack of soul. Think about the energy you waste on the shame of not doing. That energy could have been the very fuel you needed to start. But you cannot shame yourself into functioning better, just as you cannot yell at a dead battery to start a car. Healing begins the moment you stop treating your biological limits as moral failures. Understanding your chemistry is the first step toward reclaiming your agency. Your worth is not defined by the output of your engine, but by the wisdom with which you manage your fuel. When the internal storm is raging, the biggest tragedy isn't what happens inside of you. It's the silence that grows between you and the person you love most. Have you ever noticed how your overwhelm becomes a wall that your partner can't climb over? In the space of intimacy, ADHD overwhelm is often misdiagnosed as indifference. When you're staring at a sink full of dishes or a pile of laundry and you simply cannot move, your partner doesn't see a neurological glitch. They see a lack of care. They see a choice. But the truth is, you aren't choosing to be lazy. Your brain has physically disconnected from the command center. This is where we need what I call the translation layer. We have to stop expecting our partners to read our minds when our minds are currently a blur of static. Most relationship conflicts aren't actually about the dishes or the forgotten anniversary. They are about the language gap between two different operating systems. If you don't translate your internal chaos, your partner will fill that silence with their own insecurities. They will think, if they loved me, they would just do it. But love is not a cure for executive dysfunction. We have to move from a dynamic of fixing the partner to understanding the system. Imagine the shift in your home. If instead of retreating into shame, you could say, my brain is currently at capacity and I am experiencing a systemic shutdown. You aren't making an excuse. You are providing a map. You are inviting them into the cockpit of your life so you can navigate the turbulence together rather than letting them feel like a passenger in a crashing plane. True intimacy isn't found in being perfectly functional for someone else. It's found in the vulnerability of admitting when your frequency is jammed. When we stop hiding our overwhelm, we stop making our partners the enemy of our struggle. Compassion is the bridge that turns a private battle into a shared journey. If your mind is a storm, why are you spending all your energy trying to stop the wind? We've looked at the biology and the social impact, but now we must look at the spirit, at the quiet space that exists beneath the noise. Ancient wisdom has long spoken of the monkey mind, the part of us that leaps from thought to thought like a restless animal in the canopy of a tree. For the ADHD brain, that monkey doesn't just leap, it sprints. But the mistake we make is thinking that mindfulness means making the monkey sit still. It doesn't. Mindfulness is the art of becoming the internal witness. It is the realization that you are not the chaos, you are the one observing it. Think about the eye of a hurricane. Outside, the winds are devastating, pulling everything into their path, but at the very center, there is a pocket of absolute silence. The storm is still happening, the clouds are still spinning, but the center remains untouched. This is the shift from trying to stop the movement to finding the quiet spot inside the movement. When the overwhelm hits, when the glitch happens, your goal shouldn't be to force your brain to be normal. That is an act of violence against your own nature. Instead, practice radical acceptance. Breathe into the electricity. Feel the buzzing in your chest or the static in your head. And instead of saying, get out, say, I see you. By observing the noise, rather than becoming the noise, you create a microscopic gap between the impulse and the reaction. In that gap, your power is born. You are a high-frequency soul living in a low-frequency world, and you don't need to quiet your light to find your peace. You just need to find the stillness at the core of your flame. You are not the storm that passes through. You are the sky that remains after it's gone. So, how do we move from the stillness of the storm to the reality of the work? Why do we wait for a flood of motivation that never arrives when we could be looking for a single drop of momentum? We often fall into the dangerous trap of all or nothing thinking, a psychological cage that tells us if we cannot conquer the entire mountain today, there is no point in putting on our shoes. But for a brain drowning in overwhelm, the mountain isn't just a task. It's a physical weight on your chest. This is where we must master the alchemy of the micro-intervention, the power of the 1% win. If your house is a disaster and the very sight of the chaos makes your nervous system want to shut down, don't try to clean the room. Wash one spoon. Just one. You might ask, how can one spoon change a life? Because psychology tells us that the greatest barrier to action isn't the size of the task. It's the friction of the start. By lowering the stakes to a level that feels almost too easy to fail, you bypass the brain's alarm system. You trick the dopamine-starved engine into a micro spark of completion. And that tiny spark sends a signal to your identity that you are no longer a victim of your environment. You are an agent of change. In your relationships, this becomes a beautiful tool for co-regulation. Instead of retreating into your shame, invite your partner into what I call relationship sprints. Don't ask them to help you fix your life. Ask them to sit with you for 5 minutes while you tackle one tiny corner. This is the body doubling effect, where the calm presence of someone you love acts as an external anchor for your drifting mind. You are shifting the narrative from I am failing to we are starting. When you stop demanding a masterpiece from a mind that is currently struggling to find the brush, you create the grace necessary for true healing. Momentum is not a giant leap. It is a series of microscopic steps taken with immense intentionality. Big changes don't come from big actions. They come from the courage to do the smallest thing possible when everything feels impossible. As we begin to gather these microscopic victories, a profound transformation begins to occur, not just in what you do, but in who you believe you are. We have spent so much of our lives looking at our minds through the lens of a deficit, measuring our worth by how well we fit into a world designed for a different kind of rhythm. But the ultimate healing begins when you realize that you are not a broken version of normal. You are a standard version of unique. Your ADHD brain is not a factory error. It is a high-performance system with its own specialized blueprint. The same overwhelm that paralyzes you is the flip side of your incredible capacity for hyper-focus, deep empathy, and a level of creativity that others can only dream of. When you learn to manage the storm, you finally get to harness the lightning. This journey isn't about fixing yourself so that you can finally be enough for your partner or your career. It's about recognizing that you were always enough. You just needed a different set of tools to navigate the terrain. In your relationships, as you move from fixing to understanding, you create a space where intimacy can breathe again. You stop being two people fighting a disorder and start being two people exploring a unique landscape of the mind. Self-compassion is the bridge that carries you from the chaos of overwhelm to the harmony of flow. It is the grace to forgive yourself for the unfinished parts of your day so that you can save your energy for the love that truly matters. Remember, the goal of life is not to have a quiet mind, but to have a mind that is at peace with its own noise. Your frequency is not too loud. You just need to find the stage that was built for your sound. Stop trying to dim your light to fit into a smaller room and start building a life that is big enough to hold all of your beautiful chaotic energy. Your struggle is infinite. Your mind is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived.